what Marjorie fails to notice is that we have been fighting on the border. We fight on it every day. We passed our comprehensive border security package, H.R. 2, at the very beginning of this Congress. It's been sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk. We passed all the resolutions. We passed these acts out of the House, and they get stopped in the Senate.
And that was the Speaker of the House, Louisiana Congressman Mike Johnson, with me here last weekend, referring to Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's threat to file a motion to vacate the Speaker's chair after the Republican-led House passed a $1.2 trillion spending bill last month with still no new security at the southern border, and then yesterday passed an additional $95 billion in new foreign aid, $60 billion of which is going to Ukraine. Since then, two other congressmen have joined Taylor Greene's effort to vacate the chair, Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie and Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar, saying that Speaker Johnson surrendered House Republican leverage to secure the border by tying urgent aid to Israel to Ukraine. But the Congresswoman did not ultimately file the motion after the vote yesterday. Joining me now with the very latest is the woman herself, in this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive, House Oversight Committee member, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Congresswoman, thanks very much for being here. I want to give you the opportunity to respond to critics. First off, yesterday, we saw the bills pass, and you did not file the motion to vacate. Why not?
That's right, Maria. I've been responsible with this the entire time. I support our majority, and I support having the majority in 2025. But I'm a representative of the people, Maria, and I do not represent Washington, D.C., New York Times, any of these media companies and other Republican colleagues of mine that are criticizing me, even the Speaker himself. Most of those people have lost their way, and they aren't listening to the American people. The people are fed up. Last Monday was tax day, April 15th. And Washington betrayed the American people by sending $93 billion to support foreign wars while doing nothing, absolutely nothing to secure our border. That is a complete betrayal. And then once this bill was passed, the American people saw on their television screens and social media all over where Congress was waving the Ukrainian flag on the United States House of Representative floor. All of this was possible because of the betrayals of Mike Johnson, Maria. He has completely betrayed the Republican Party. He has completely betrayed Republican voters all over the country, and he is absolutely working for the Democrats, passing the Biden administration's agenda. So this is a speakership that is completely over with. It's only Mike Johnson is the one that's trying to hang on to it and is in complete denial.
Well, look, you just heard the Speaker with me last week saying she doesn't, she's missing the fact that we already passed H.R. 2. But I think, some of the criticism is because and by the way, you're getting criticized on the left, on the right, in the media, everybody, a lot of people are criticizing you. And the reason that they are is because they're saying that you're creating drama during this election year. How is this leading to reelecting President Trump? How is this leading to the American people believing that the Republicans can govern? People are saying, look, she's creating chaos. She's making the entire party look like it's disrupted. Your reaction and response to those criticisms?
Yeah, those that are calling this drama are the very people that are responsible for the drama that the American people are having to live through every single day. Those on the left, those on the right, the uniparty that's in control of our government are the ones that have inflicted the American people with nearly $35 trillion in debt, ripped their border wide open and refuse. Speaker Johnson refuses to use his power as Speaker of the House to do any type of negotiating to secure the southern border and stop the madness in our country. The people criticizing me are not the American people. The American people agree with me, and I've talked to them, and I've seen it all over. They are outraged, and what they're saying is they don't want to vote for Republicans anymore because in their eyes, their opinion and how they feel and how they're treated, the Republican Party in charge right now is no different than the Democrat Party. It's one big uniparty that serves the world first and America last. So I really could care less about their criticism. They didn't send me to Washington. I do not work for them. As a matter of fact, I came to Washington because I myself, as a regular American, was fed up with the uniparty as well. So you want to know something? I don't apologize for standing firm in my belief and my faith and my absolute allegiance to the United States of America. As a matter of fact, I am cemented in this, and I will fight harder for our country. The Republican Party is the party that needs to change, and they need to start reflecting the will of their voters and actually do the job instead of just running their mouth constantly every single campaign cycle.
I guess what I'm saying is, how does this help keeping a majority in the House? How does this help by electing your candidate? Your candidate. I want to take a break, and I want to ask you what your plan is. So you're threatening Mike Johnson. You say he's not doing what the people want. What is your alternative? Stay with us, Georgia Congresswoman. That's what I want to hear from you next. Marjorie Taylor Greene is here, and we'll be back in 1 minute's time. Welcome back, and I am back with Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, Congresswoman, you wanted Mike Johnson out. What is your alternative plan?
Our plan is this: we have to give the American people a reason to trust us and fight for us. The American people are supporting President Trump to be the next president of the United States because they've seen him in action. He fought against the Democrat agenda. He put America first. They desperately want him to lead this country again because they trust him and they know he will do that. Mike Johnson has betrayed America. He's betrayed Republican voters. Under his leadership, he's passed the Democrat agenda, passed the Biden administration's policies, and fully funded them. We're going to fight in Congress to do everything we can to stop this type of uniparty leadership. Mike Johnson's speakership is over. He needs to do the right thing to resign and allow us to move forward in a controlled process. Yeah. If he doesn't do so, he will be vacated.
Well, with all due respect, you didn't give me a plan for the speaker's role. And again, does this mean you are going to file that motion at some point?
It's coming regardless of what Mike Johnson decides to do. And we have 3 more Republicans joining us from special elections coming up very soon. So people need to know this can happen.
Congressman, thank you for being here. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.